Alright, what's going on everyone? Today we're going to take a look at another World Championship winning deck in Magic the Gathering's history, and this time it is Esper Legends, the deck that won the World Championship in 2023. Standard at the time was very large. It was composed of 2 Innistrad sets, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, Streets of New Capenna, the Dominaria and Phyrexian sets, and Wilds of Eldraine. This is the largest standard pool we've ever had in a World Championship because Wizards of the Coast recently changed standard rotation to once every 3 years instead of once every 2. The tournament would take place in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it would be won by Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, who was actually the runner-up in the World Championship 2 years prior. So Esper Legends is filled with legendary creatures. We'll talk about the specifics in a second, but one of the dangers of running so many legends is you can only control one at a time. This is problematic because if you draw 2 or 3 of the same legend, they're effectively useless. But the entire deck is made more consistent with one key card, and that's Raffine. It's a 3 mana 1/4 flyer, and it says when you attack, target creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So let's say you attack with 3 creatures, you would target a creature, draw 3, discard 3, and any non-land you discard will add +1/+1 counters to the creature. So this is perfect for filtering through duplicate copies of legends. The rest of the deck is filled with powerful legendary creatures like Skrelv, Thalia, and Sheoldred. Skrelv is a 1/1 that can protect your creatures. It can also make creatures unblockable if you're on offense. Thalia punishes spell-based decks by making non-creatures more expensive, and this deck only plays 4 non-creatures in the entire main board. Thalia also puts +1/+1 counters to good use with the first strike, so a great combination with Raffine. And Sheoldred is one of the most dominant creatures in the standard environment, a 4 mana 4/5 with Death Touch that gains 2 life whenever you draw a card, and the opponent loses 2 life whenever they draw a card. So this can lead to huge amounts of life gain with Raffine, because remember, when you're conniving, you're drawing cards, you're gaining life, and it can also just be protected with Skrelv to drain the opponent out if you're unable to attack. Other legends the deck plays include Danek, Lord Skitter, and Urtai Resurrected. Danek is very efficient in the early game, deterring attacks from aggro decks. Being a 3 toughness creature with lifelink is very good. It can also create huge life swings if it soaks up counters from Raffine, and also incidentally hates out reanimator decks by making cards in graveyards unable to be targeted. He can also be played from the graveyard for 4 mana with his disturb cost, and he's a 3/2 that can generate clue tokens whenever creatures are put into the graveyard, which is perfectly fine. Lord Skitter is a 3 mana 3/3 that makes a 1/1 every turn. They can't block, but you can build up an army of attackers to connive with Raffine, so that's just more card draw, that's more filtering, that's more +1/+1 counters. And Urtai is a 4 mana 3/2 that can counter a spell or kill a creature. The opponent gets to draw a card, but it's not bad since this won't have its cost raised by Thalia, and it provides another attacker to filter with Raffine. It's also just another legend, which is very important. The 2 final creatures in the deck are Rona and Fairy Mastermind. Rona is another way to filter away duplicate legends with the draw and discard ability, and also untaps whenever you cast a legend, allowing you to filter multiple times per turn. It also flips into a 5/5 trampler that punishes people for dealing damage to it. It exiles a card at random from their hand, and you get to cast it for free. Fairy Mastermind is a 2/1 with flash and flying that will draw if your opponent draws an extra card. This is great because you can wait until the opponent draws a card, then cast the Mastermind in response to also draw a card. You can also force the issue by paying 4 mana on your opponent's turn. You'll each draw, and then you get an extra card from your opponent's draw. There's also an interesting backstory with this card. This is Yuta Takahashi's World Championship card. When you win the World Championship, you get to contribute to making a card, and they put you in the art. Yuta Takahashi won the World Championship in 2021 against Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, the pilot of this deck. So Yuta beat Jean-Emmanuel, was featured on Fairy Mastermind, which Jean-Emmanuel used to win the World Championship 2 years later. Anyway, the last 2 non-land cards in the deck are Go for the Throat and Make Disappear. This might not seem like a lot of removal, but remember that not only does the deck have Urtai, but Raffine is so good at filtering that it's not too hard to find what you need. And there's also the mana base, which also has a lot of removal in it. You might be surprised by that. So In the mana base, there's Plaza of Heroes. This taps for any color of mana so long as you're casting a legend, and then it can tap for any color of mana among legends you control. So basically, if you're casting a legend, this taps for any color, and then if you have like Rafine in play, it can now tap for blue, white, and black for a removal spell, for example. It also plays Otawara, Iganjo, and Takenuma, and these are very powerful in this deck. They're utility lands, so they don't enter tapped, but they are legendary, so you cannot control more than one. However, they can be channeled for extra effects. Otawara bounces something, Iganjo deals 4 damage to an attacking or blocking creature, and Takenuma mills and returns creatures from the graveyard to your hand. It's not normal for decks to play this many copies of these lands because they're legendary, but once again, with Rafine, this deck is really good at filtering them away if necessary, and also they have their costs, their channel costs, reduced by the number of legends you control. So these very frequently cost just a single mana to channel. So these are actually just very powerful spells in the mana base, and you can filter them away if you need to with Rafine. The deck also had access to Seachrome Coast and Dark Slick Shore, both of which enter the battlefield untapped if you control 2 or fewer lands. And then it has Shipwreck Marsh and Shattered Sanctum, which are the opposite. They enter untapped if you control 2 or more lands. It also played Caves of Koilos, which is a pain land, adding white or black at the cost of 1 life, and it played a single basic swamp. As always, we don't go super in depth when it comes to the sideboard, but it played Disdainful Stroke and Negate as extra counters, Blot Out and Cut Down as extra removal, Surge of Salvation, which was a protection spell if necessary, and it had Wedding Announcement and Ayo the Dawn Sky as additional threats. And that's the deck. The deck was very good at pressuring the opponent with powerful legends, and it was incredibly consistent because of how well it could filter through its deck to find precisely what it needed at any given time. So there you go, that's Esper Legends, the deck that won the World Championship in 2023. If you like this video, I have an entire playlist dedicated to these World Championship decks, going all the way back to the 90s. So if you're interested in that, I will leave a link to that playlist in the description below. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.